It was a warm Saturday morning. Savi was sitting at the kitchen table thinking about something special. Mom and Dad had been busy all week, so Savi decided she wanted to do something that would bring the whole family together. She smiled and said, "Let's bake a cake." Mom looked at Dad and Dad smiled. "Why not?" Dad said. "Let's make it together." Soon, the kitchen was filled with everything they needed. Flour, sugar, eggs, butter, and milk were placed on the counter. Savi carefully helped Mom measure the ingredients while Dad stood nearby ready to help. But Dad had one important job: mixing. He stirred the batter a little too enthusiastically, and suddenly, whoosh! A little cloud of flour flew into the air. Some landed on Dad's face. Savi and Mom burst out laughing. Dad laughed too. The kitchen already felt warm and happy. Finally, their first cake was ready to go into the oven. Savi watched through the oven door with excitement. She imagined how beautiful their cake would look. But when they took it out, everyone became quiet. The cake was flat. It hadn't risen the way they expected. Savi looked disappointed. "We tried so hard," she said softly. Mom sat beside her and smiled. "Sometimes our first try doesn't turn out the way we hope." Dad nodded. "But that doesn't mean we should stop." Savi looked at the cake again. Maybe they could try once more. So they went back to the kitchen. This time they paid closer attention. They measured everything carefully. They mixed the batter slowly, and they remembered what they had learned from their first attempt. Soon the second cake went into the oven. When it came out, it looked much better. Savi smiled. "We did it." But when they tasted it, it was a little too dry. Savi made a funny face. Dad laughed. "Well, it looks like we still have something to learn." Instead of giving up, Savi thought about what had gone wrong. Maybe the batter needed a little more care. Maybe they needed to follow each step more carefully. Mom reminded her, "Every mistake can teach us something." Savi nodded. She was beginning to understand. The goal wasn't to make a perfect cake on the first try. The goal was to keep learning. So they tried again. This time, Savi carefully measured the ingredients. Mom helped her follow each step. Dad mixed the batter gently. Together they worked as a team. Then they placed their third cake into the oven. As they waited, Savi looked at Mom and Dad. No one knew exactly how it would turn out, but this time she wasn't worried. She had already learned something important. Trying again was part of the journey. Finally, the timer rang. Savi jumped up excitedly. They opened the oven, and there it was, a beautiful golden cake. It had risen perfectly. Savi's eyes lit up. "We did it," Mom smiled proudly. Dad gave Savi a high five. Together they decorated the cake. They looked at their 3 cakes. The first one that didn't rise, the second one that was too dry, and the third one that turned out beautifully. Savi smiled at all 3, because now she knew that every cake had been part of the story. The first taught them to try, the second taught them to learn, and the third showed them what could happen when they didn't give up. As the family sat together and enjoyed their cake, Savi felt happy, not because everything had gone perfectly, but because they had stayed together, kept trying, and learned from every little challenge. Mom gently said, "Sometimes the things that make life difficult are the same things that make the final success feel special." Savi smiled. She knew she would remember this Saturday for a long time, because the cake wasn't the only thing they had made that day. They had made a memory. And Savi learned that challenges can make life interesting, but overcoming them is what makes life meaningful.